Welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 284. Ton to do today. We are really in the stretch run of the NFL season. We will get to all of that. We have one of our favorite games to play, Public Defender. Pretty damn good Monday Night Football game last night with one of the NFL rule oddities coming into play in a way that I think at first blush confuses people. When you really look at it, it does technically make sense, but probably should be adjusted. We'll do all of that. First, what missed the cut? Kyle Shanahan says there's not going to be any trade of me to the Chicago Bears. Bummer for the Bears. Taylor Swift's Eras Tour ends. I know the Swifties are going to get mad at me for this. I got to be totally honest with you. I did not know that was still going. I was very up on the Eras Tours news in the offseason. I felt like that was maybe served more to my Twitter algorithm in August and early September. I thought it had already ended. Turns out I was wrong. And also missing the cut, my NBA Cup prediction, because much like LeBron, if the Lakers aren't involved in it, I'm not that interested. And I you know what? I thought it was when LeBron got to add to the resume first ever NBA Cup champ title. It's like, okay, just another thing Jordan doesn't have. Now that the Lakers aren't even in the elimination round, like the knockout round, I'm like, in-season tournament. How much does that really matter? Damonza, looking great. Nice sweatshirt. I like that a lot. Good to see you. All right, let's get right to the news of the week, which is the champs stay the champs. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the Kansas City Chiefs found another way to win. No matter what, they're just going to keep playing in these nitty-gritty games. Chris Jones actually came out and said that they play these games because it holds the ratings. Do you think that there's a possibility that the way that they're playing in these close games could come back to bite them in the offseason, or the playoffs, the postseason, should I say?
Well, listen, playoff games typically are quite close. Like, even the Chiefs in this dynastic run have not had many postseason blowouts. Like, the Super Bowl obviously went down to overtime. The Ravens game was one of the more lopsided playoff games the Chiefs have had, and because they were up 10 for almost the entirety of the second half, but that still came, they were up 7, 3rd and 10, had to hit the pass to MVS. That was a one-score game. Obviously, the Bills game, Bills have the ball down 3, driving at the end of the game. That comes down to the very end. Now, the Dolphins game was a blowout, but then go on the previous year. Eagles game comes down to the very end. Bengals game comes down to the very end. The Jags game they won by 7. It didn't feel quite as close, but that was the game that Mahomes got hurt. And the previous year when they didn't win, Bengals game goes to overtime. Bills game goes to overtime. They blow out the Steelers, but over their last, 9 playoff games, only one has been decided by more than one score. That was the Dolphins game when the Dolphins decided they didn't want to play in the cold. You had 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 literally decided on the last or second to last play of the game. And so I do think there is real situational football experience the Chiefs gain from this. I also think that folks are so lost in wanting the Chiefs to fail that we haven't stopped and kind of acknowledged some of the things this team is accomplishing and Patrick is accomplishing. This was in Patrick's 7th season as hold on. I can't believe I'm going to get this wrong. 18. Yeah. It's 7 seasons as a starter because he has 3 Super Bowl wins, a Super Bowl loss, 2 AFC Championship losses. 7 seasons as a starter, he has won 7 divisional championships, and he has lost 5 divisional games. So Mahomes has 2 more divisional titles than he has divisional game losses. That's incomprehensible. 35-5 against the AFC West with 7 divisional titles. Also, with this win, Patrick gets to dead 500 in his career in games. I don't know if you guys still have me or not. I hope they do. Tell me if they see my audio. If the video goes, that's fine.
Video's
okay,
off.
I think we're all right.
Audio's good.
So in games that Mahomes trails in the fourth quarter, which means every single one of his losses have to be included in this, because it's not to start the fourth quarter, it's at any point. He has trailed in 52 fourth quarters. He is now 26-26. So, I don't even know. The context for that is no other quarterback is better than 34% for their career in those spots. Mahomes is dead 500. And then there is I do understand the frustration if you're an AFC West team or a team of another contender, which is, Damonza, what have we talked about all through this year's gambling show? How tough divisional games are. How no matter how good you are and how seemingly bad the opponent is, divisional games are just a different animal. Yep. The Chiefs' last 3 divisional games, Broncos trying to kick a field goal to beat them, the Chiefs block it to win by 2. The Raiders trying to get ready to kick a field goal to beat them, the Chiefs block it. I'm sorry, the Raiders fumble the snap and the Chiefs recover the fumble to win by 2. The Chargers, the Chiefs need a field goal to beat them. They doink it off the upright. Now, I will say the doink by the Chiefs' 3rd kicker of the year makes it feel luckier, if you will, than that actually was. What that was once again a perfectly executed game-winning drive by Patrick Mahomes. You pick up a 3rd and 10 early. You pick up a 3rd and 7, ostensibly, to ice the game. Kelsey caught it, stayed on his knee, and so that wasn't a lucky field goal. It was almost a horrific miss. But when you're on your 3rd-string kicker, sometimes you get the horrific misses. So here's why. There are 2 major reasons I'm not concerned about this at all. Listen, the offensive line needs to be better, and I'm still waiting for DJ Humphries news, because he was an upgrade over Wanya Morris, but he left the game with an injury. He had been out of football for a year after a torn ACL, so that might have been grand opening, grand closing, we'll see. And obviously the secondary hasn't been the same since Jalen Watson got hurt. All that's true. So that's legitimate. But securing the 1 seed is so disproportionately valuable under the new playoff format that's right now all that matters. And the Bills losing this weekend, plus the Chiefs escaping with a win, makes it so here's the situation for Kansas City, Damonza. If they beat Cleveland and then win their home game a week from Saturday against Houston, okay? And so they have to go 2-0. Beat Cleveland, beat Houston to get to 14-1. If Buffalo loses either of its next 2, they play at Detroit and then they play the Patriots. So it really is Buffalo loses to Detroit. And Pittsburgh loses either of its next 2. And they play at Philly and then at Baltimore. If those things happen, the Chiefs lock up the 1 seed going into the Christmas game against the Steelers. And all year long, that has been my focus. Because schedule and rest-wise, the Chiefs are in a very odd spot. So I want to take a moment here to discuss why I've So for the Chiefs' chances to win the Super Bowl, they go up so dramatically if they have the 1 seed locked before that Christmas game. Because the NFL is asking those 4 teams that play on Christmas to play as condensed of a 3-game stretch as any teams have ever played, where you play Sunday, Saturday, Wednesday. Now, that's been done before on a Monday, Sunday, Thursday schedule, but when the time's that short, it does warrant mentioning this is a 1 o'clock kickoff, so you don't even get those extra 7 hours of recovery time into your typical Thursday night game. And it's right before the playoffs start, and it's when the Chiefs had an early season bye. There's a lot of things there that are very disadvantageous. So now I want to get to the tricky thing for Kansas City if they don't clinch until after the Steelers game, okay? Because another way they can clinch is even if Buffalo wins all of their remaining games, if the Chiefs beat Cleveland, beat Houston, and then beat Pittsburgh, they clinch. So typical rest between football games is 6 days, Sunday to Sunday, okay? So I'm going to reverse engineer this calendar to really try to lay this out for you guys because it's an unprecedented spot Kansas City could find itself in. So the playoffs start January 13th, 14th, okay? I have to get your dates right on this. January 11th, 12th is when the playoffs start, all right? So we're just going to use Sundays as the assumed day, January 12th, okay? If the Chiefs have a bye, their playoffs start January 19th. So if you rest no one ever, you play January 5th, and then instead of having 6 days between games, you have 13 days between games, okay, if you have the bye. If the Chiefs, though, decide to do what a lot of teams do and not play guys in Week 18, well, now typically what you would have is 20 days between games. But that's not the case for Kansas City because their Week 17 game is not on a Sunday. It's on a Wednesday, December 25th. So if Kansas City were to say, we don't have it locked, we've got to play everyone through the Steelers game, and then you want to rest people in Week 18, you are then looking at playing a game on December 25th and then having 26 days until your next game, which is a divisional round playoff game. That's unprecedented and unheard of, and it would be, in my opinion, insane to do. The flip side is this, and I have circled this all year, and I don't care how mad Netflix would be. It would be such a huge opportunity for Kansas City if they earn it by having the 1 locked up, and all they need is to win their next 2 and have Buffalo and Pittsburgh both lose once. And Buffalo and Pittsburgh are both underdogs this weekend. They have an opportunity to do this. Play the Texans this coming in 2 weeks, which is the date of that game for the Texans game is on Saturday, December 21st. Okay? Sit people for the Steelers game. Have that be the week of rest. 2 weeks later, play the Broncos like your final preseason game or your third preseason game. Play your starters for a full half, get everyone up and running, sit them in the second half, and then have 2 weeks until your next game, the divisional round game. So you get to skip the Steelers on a short week. You give yourself a end of season bye. You then play the Broncos game to stay fresh for the first half, get another bye, and be in a position where you have 26 days where your team really only has to play, or 30 days, pardon me, from the Texans game to the first playoff game, where you really don't have to play a half of football, but you can stay sharp. And for a team this old, and for a team that has played 8 years of football in the last 7 years of football since Mahomes has been there, it would be such an edge. And so, if Buffalo loses again this weekend, and I think Pittsburgh's going to lose one of their last two, and Kansas City wins the next two games, they will have, from a rest perspective, the greatest opportunity in modern NFL history from how they can finagle the schedule by earning it by going 14-1. And if they do that, I'm here to tell you, I don't know how close those playoff games will be. If every other team is coming off a gauntlet and having to have won whoever they play in the divisional round, travel to Arrowhead after having won a playoff game, and then in round 3, that team has just won back-to-back playoff games and has busted their ass down the stretch, and Kansas City is there chilling. That, and then, by the way, another bye week before the Super Bowl, you are going to see a fresher, tougher, sharper Chiefs team. Now, the flip side to that coin is this. If they slip up against the Browns or the Texans, and then you have to play a hard-hitting, well-coached, desperate Steelers team on Wednesday, Christmas afternoon, that's the type of game where you could see what happened to the Lions on Thanksgiving happen to the Chiefs, where it's player after player getting banged up. That's a worst-case scenario. So, stakes couldn't be higher the next 2 weeks for Kansas City, but the double up of Buffalo losing a heartbreaker and the Chiefs winning the way they did has put them in a brilliant position. All right, let's get to the next, let's get to the next game, Damonza.
That Rams-Bills game, Bills came up short 44-42, but a lot of people would probably say that's the game of the year. Out of that game, who would you say that you're more impressed by between the Rams or Josh Allen?
Listen, Josh Allen was excellent. And even though I don't care so much about tush-push touchdowns, and I think some of these, Josh Allen the last 2 weeks has done things no quarterback's ever done, I don't look at 2 weeks ago that he has a receiving touchdown. A receiving touchdown is catching a touchdown. Josh Allen threw a pass, it got lateraled back to him, and because of an odd statistical anomaly, he finishes that game with 1 touchdown, 7 receiving yards, 0 catches. So it's just like even the box score doesn't make sense, and I don't value tush-push touchdowns the way other people do. With that said, he was their entire offense. So I was wildly impressed by him. My concern for the Bills, as much as I have liked the Bills all year, this was my concern early in the season, and I said it. I think teams with elite passing attacks, I don't think the Bills' back end can hold up. And the Rams, when they are healthy and Stafford is rolling, that is an elite passing attack. There is no denying it. There is no getting around it. And you saw it again this weekend. Now, the Rams have a lot of work to do to make the playoffs. But because of this hot streak, they now, sneaky, have 2 paths to the playoffs, Damonza. They control their own destiny for the division if they win out. And they obviously, if Seattle stumbles, can win the division. But they also quietly have another path that no one's really talking about, which is, what if they get the 7 seed because the Commanders fall apart? Now, we saw the Commanders trending down, and then they got the gift of the Tennessee Titans, and so everyone's like, okay, the Commanders are fine. Maybe, and they're coming off a bye, so maybe they're okay. But they're at the Saints this weekend, then home for Philly, home for the Falcons, at the Cowboys. So I think the Rams, their best path is winning the division, but the 7 seed door isn't shut to them. If they win the division, though, Damonza, they are not going to object to that potential Super Bowl road. They would start with a home game, ostensibly against Minnesota. Minnesota's really good, but they played Minnesota this year and beat them 30-20. They then, if the bracket holds, would be going to Detroit. They played Detroit in the playoffs last year, lost by 1. They played Detroit week 1 of this season, went to overtime. So Detroit's better than the Rams. There's no denying it. But Stafford plays them tough. And I just, when you have, in my opinion, the best coach in the conference and the best quarterback in the conference, if you win your division and you get at least one home game, you're a live playoff
both
opponent.
have been there. Yeah, 100%.
Right.
The Rams have previous experience over the Lions, and yeah.
And the last
they got
coach-quarterback combo to win a Super Bowl, not named Reed Mahomes, was McVay-Stafford. So the Rams, when they're rolling offensively, are just, they look unstoppable. And as, I will say this, as bullish as I am on the Chiefs, and as I have been all year, the type of team that worries me the most are teams with 2 elite receivers and an elite quarterback to go along with it. Now, there's only 2 teams in the league that fit that bill, the Rams and the Bengals. The Eagles have 2 elite receivers, but I don't think
Philly. No, I
just don't think Jalen's an elite quarterback. And I don't know if you saw the latest drama out of Philly. Yeah. They seem to be trying to light themselves on fire again. And, I mean, Jalen, I don't put this on Jalen, but
he can have a great game.
You've got a bad game but the post-game comments from A.J. Brown saying, what's the problem? He says, a passing game. And then, what do you guys need to work on? Passing. And then Brandon Graham comes out yesterday and says, Brandon Graham, the leader of that team, arguably, who tore his tricep, so he's out for the year, but still the veteran leader, said on the radio yesterday, he has since apologized, yeah, I don't know what happened between Jalen and AJ. They used to be friends.
Oh, wow.
He's like, so, yeah, and now today he's like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. But, like, you can't put that genie back in the bottle, man. And Philly, and you know I believe in Philly, but damn, last year they were 10-1, things fell off, and they absolutely fell apart. Now they're 11-2, didn't feel off, seemed fine, and A.J. Brown just lights a match, and Brandon Graham throws kerosene on it. But back to the point I was making about teams that can give the Chiefs the most trouble. 2 elite receivers and elite quarterback. Since Jalen Watson went down, that's the type of team the Chiefs don't have an answer for. All right, so let's go to...
Sounds like you
go
don't.
Ahead.
I mean, I was going to ask if you regret picking the Eagles over the Rams. I mean, it sounds like you do, actually.
I mean, I think the Eagles, it's not a full-blown spiral yet. I think this weekend's game against Pittsburgh is going to be incredibly instructive. You win this game, you get to 12-2. It's a great win. You can quiet a lot of the noise. You lose this game, and immediately the narrative is going to be, is it last year all over again, even if that's unfair. And, people did not like their win over Carolina. Carolina's been frisky for the last month. Yeah. Not really winning games, but playing good teams tough. And this was the closest win they had. I mean, Xavier Legette, had the touchdown. Now, to be fair, that would not have won the game. that would have put Carolina up 1, but there was 45 seconds left. Like, Philly would have had plenty of time to go back and get in field goal range. I'm also going to double down on the MVP thing, that I do not think it's over. And right now, Josh Allen is minus 450 or something, minus 500. Saquon's a distant second. And in third place is Jared Goff. Jared Goff plays Josh Allen and the Bills on national TV this weekend. Goff right now has more touchdown passes than Allen, a better passer rating than Allen, more passing yards than Allen, all those things. If Goff cooks in that game, right, on a better team, if Goff cooks in that game and they win, there is going to be some real, why isn't Jared Goff the MVP momentum? And if the Bills lose 2 in a row and fall to 10-4 at and maybe the 3 seed in the AFC, it's just, right now Allen is the favorite. Saquon right now would have my vote, but right now Allen is the favorite. But it is too early to say that debate is over. And I think those odds are not giving Goff enough credit. All right, next.
So the Bengals not destroyed. I guess they beat the Cowboys last night by a touchdown. But coming into this year, you probably would have thought that was going to be a great game. But Dallas is without Dak, obviously, and Cincinnati's defense has sucked all year. Which one of these teams do you think returns to relevance the fastest?
Well, the answer is, to me, obviously Cincinnati, because they have the great quarterback. Now, they have some structural problems, and after the game, they talked about keeping Higgins, Chase, and Joe together. That's just not happening there. Like, they can keep Chase there, but they're not going to be able to keep T. Higgins there, and I think everyone at this point knows that. Like, T. Higgins is going to be, I don't think they're franchise tagging him again, and he's going to be a free agent, and they're, you know what I mean? They're going to go out and they're going to have to pay Jamar Chase absolute top of market money, and so that's what's going to happen. To me, it's not that surprising that this is the position they have found themselves in. I shouldn't say it's not that surprising. It's the Bengals made a decision that I disagreed with before the year, in that they didn't take care of their business with T. Higgins early enough and decide to trade him or extend him. And then they doubled down on that mistake by not giving Jamar an obvious extension last year when he was eligible. And that set to me, season off on the wrong foot. Now, the offense has been great despite all of that. It's been mostly defensive issues, but I think the Bengals have some retooling to do. The Cowboys just seem stuck, and they'll be relevant because they're the Cowboys. And that was actually a hell of a performance last night, and Micah is such a massive difference maker. Just when he's out there defensively, they're a different team. But they are flirting with the idea of bringing Mike McCarthy back. Obviously, their 3 best players are coming back, Micah, CD, and Dak. So I just don't see what major change is going to come for the Cowboys for them to all of a sudden be a contender. And the Bengals' defense can vary a ton year to year. The Bengals just need an average defense, and they right now would be 10-3 with an average defense instead of their position of 5-8.
Are you still on the boat of they have like a real playoff chance this year? Like, do you think that?
Well, so I was doing it's funny you asked that. So the Bengals would have to win out, which if you look at their schedule, you say, well, that's possible. what they have the rest of the way is the Titans, who are terrible, the Browns, the Broncos in a huge game, and then at the Steelers in Week 18, which maybe is a super meaningful game to Pittsburgh, or maybe Pittsburgh's resting people. So it's possible they win out and get to 9-8. It's not likely, but it's possible. The problem for Cincinnati that I came across today when I was doing it is, even if they win out, they have a very, very narrow path, which is they would need to win out and have the Broncos lose out, including the game to them. Then they would get in, theoretically. But the problem with that is, again, we're going in the weeds a bit, is the Broncos, if they lose out, the Broncos play the Colts this week. And the Colts are one of the teams ahead of Cincinnati in the standings. Again, this is probably a better article than podcast, but just stick with me for a minute. The Bengals max out at 9 wins, and the only team they could win the tiebreaker with that also maxes out at 9 wins is the Broncos, because they play them head-to-head. But for the Broncos to only get to 9 wins or fewer, they need to lose out, right? So follow me along this path. One of those losses would come to the Colts. Well, the Colts would win every tiebreaker with Cincy. And if the Colts beat the Broncos, they're at 7 wins with the following games left: Titans, Giants, Jags. So what the Bengals need to get into the playoffs is they win all their games. The Colts to beat Denver, or the Colts to beat Denver, and then the Colts, after beating Denver, to go 1-2 against Titans, Giants, Jags. That's a really tough putt. Or the other way is for the Broncos to beat the Colts, and then the Broncos to promptly lose every game left on their schedule. So I do think that the Bengals, oddly, are a dangerous adjacent team, but they have a 2-6 conference record, which means they're going to lose every tiebreaker, and they max out at 9 wins. So they would have to hit the following exactas, essentially. They need to win all 4 of their games. They then need either the following things to happen: the Broncos to beat the Colts and then promptly lose all 3 of their games, or the Colts to beat the Broncos and the Broncos to lose 2 of their last 3 and the Colts to lose 2 of their last 3. You're just not going to get that, you know what I mean? All of those things to happen.
If the Bengals lose their next game, you sit Burrow. You sit him, right?
That's an interesting one. If they lose, the moment they get eliminated, do you sit Joe Burrow? Maybe. I mean, I think that. So here's a different one. Let's assume Burrow hasn't sat. Let me ask you this question, Damonza. Who are your 3 AFC Pro Bowl quarterbacks?
3 AFC Pro Bowl quarterbacks? What do you mean?
That seems like a why are we asking this, but here's why. Josh Allen's in the AFC. Lamar Jackson's in the AFC. Patrick Mahomes is in the AFC. Joe Burrow's in the AFC. Which of those 4 guys is not getting a Pro Bowl seat this year? Do you have, what's your gut reaction answer?
If Joe Burrow, you're saying this is if Joe Burrow sits?
No, I'm saying, how about this?
Just as now.
If you had to vote today, as it is right now, if you had to vote today, who's not getting a Pro Bowl spot in the AFC of those 4 quarterbacks?
Unfortunately, I don't know. To go back and look, I mean, Burrow's obviously been carrying that team. Mahomes?
Go ahead. So
I mean,
here's the thing.
has Lamar not had a better season, like statistic wise, than Patrick Mahomes?
I think it would come down to Burrow or Mahomes. I think Lamar is kind of locked because his numbers are insane. Josh feels locked because he might win the damn league MVP.
Right.
So then you have Burrow or Mahomes. Burrow, who has the best numbers of any quarterback in football, but his team is 5-8. Mahomes, whose numbers are mediocre, but every single person who's watched the NFL this year, if they were being honest, and you asked them this question, hey, the Chiefs who are 12-1 and have the second best Super Bowl odds, but really they're the favorites to win the Super Bowl, what would their record be with any other quarterback? What do we think? 7-6? Like this Chiefs team that has the best. So it's a really weird spot.
Yeah.
And one of those guys is not going to be a Pro Bowler. Now, if the Bengals were to do what you're not suggesting, but asking, which is if they sit Burrow, then it becomes an easier discussion. But I don't know who gets left out. Honest to God. It can't be Lamar. You can't put in Burrow over Lamar. You just can't. Like, you can put them both in, but Lamar, they've played twice. They've both played great in both games. Lamar's won both. His team's better. Their numbers are equivalent. He's got to be there. Josh Allen is the overwhelming favorite to win league MVP, so he's in there. And then you have a Burrow-Mahomes discussion, which is an interesting one. I am here to tell you. I'm here to tell you that I want nothing more than for the second straight year, the Chiefs to be shut out from all of the NFL awards, even like honors. Like they announce the NFL honors ceremony like Super Bowl week or the week before, and they announce the finalists. And last year, Coach of the Year, no. GM of the Year, no. Defensive Player of the Year, no. MVP, no. Like, they got shut out for everything. It's going to happen again, by the way. Mahomes obviously is not going to be MVP finalist. They're going to screw Chris Jones on being a Defensive Player of the Year finalist. Andy Reid's not even top 7 or 8 in Coach of the Year odds. If all that happens and they announce the Pro Bowl rosters, the Pro Bowl, and for the first time in his career, Patrick Mahomes is not a Pro Bowler, oh my God. They might beat everyone by 30 in the playoffs. I really hope it happens. All right, let's talk a bit about quarterback development after the break. Take a quick break, come back. What's right? All right, welcome back in. What's Right with Nick Wright, Damonza. Let's get to our last topic before we go to public defender.
So we got the Lions, Seahawks, Bucks, Vikings, and Steelers. All of those teams right now are currently playoff teams, but they all got quarterbacks that were previously scrapped from their last teams. Do you think that we're witnessing a shift in the NFL? Is it not less, or is it less detrimental to have a franchise quarterback than a great coach?
Well, Here's what I think. I think that in the NFC, you can survive, make a Super Bowl even, without a great quarterback. We see it happen all the time. The Niners made a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy. The Eagles made one with Jalen Hurts. The Eagles made one with Nick Foles. The Niners made one with Jimmy Garoppolo. The only great quarterback who'd made a Super Bowl in the NFC the last few years is Stafford and Brady, obviously. And Stafford, by the way, wasn't really held in this high of a regard until the Rams tenure. So, like, people are like, do you take the Vikings seriously? My answer to that question is yes, because they're in the NFC. And listen, Darnold's played great. I don't think he's great, but he has played great. I give him credit. But all of your historically great or unicorn quarterbacks are in the other conference. Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow. They're all there. And so you just feel like in the AFC, you've got to have one of those guys. In the NFC, when it's like you're going to have to go through Goff or Jalen or Darnold, we'll see if Jordan Love can become that guy. He hasn't yet. Or Baker or Geno. There's just a clearer path. Now, those teams might be more well-rounded. So that is like, listen, obviously great coaches are undervalued, but the other piece of it is what those teams have been able to do is pay B plus, A minus players all over their team because their quarterback, instead of making 60 million, is making 30 or on the rookie scale, whatever it is. That's a huge edge. Nothing is as big of an edge as the edge you get from having one of those truly, truly great quarterbacks. Where you get screwed is if you find yourself in the position the Cowboys, or at this point the Cardinals, or those teams have, which is you have a fine quarterback who you pay like he's one of those guys. And so this is not, a unique opinion or new ground. This is just a different version of the best way to win a championship is a quarterback on the rookie pay scale. But the kind of middle ground now is the veteran quarterback that makes more than a rookie, but way less than a superstar who has a lot of experience, who found a system that fits him, like Geno, like Baker, like it looks like we found with Darnold. And so that's the Lions, I guess, with Goff would fall into that as well. But Goff, has been paid top of market twice now. Goff got paid top of market by the Rams, and then the Lions just paid him top of market again. All right, let's go to the game. Let's go to Public Defender.
So first off, counsel, it seems you exclusively represent teams that can only beat Bryce Young by less than a touchdown. Counselor, defend your client, the Eagles, and their Super Bowl chances.
Well, listen, the Eagles' Super Bowl hopes are it's very straightforward. One is, despite all of the drama surrounding the team, it is also totally on the board that they end up as the number one seed in the NFC. And that the Super Bowl goes through the link in January, which is a brutal spot for the rest of the conference. All that they need is for the Lions to trip up against Buffalo, and then they're tied in the loss column with Philly, and it's a race to the end. Even if that does not happen, the Eagles' path right now would be the 2 seed, hosting a Washington team that they can beat, as they have already beaten earlier this year, and they're going to get another bite at them later. And then if they get to that place, you feel like so many of the potential bad vibes that are percolating right now go away. They have arguably the best defense in the whole conference, inarguably the best running back in the whole conference. They are incredibly live to win the Super Bowl, or to get to the Super Bowl, to win the conference. But there is no denying that right now, I put the problems on. I'm going to take off my public defender hat for a moment and now just talk about the Eagles. I put the problems on A.J. Brown. And listen, Jalen Hurts has not played well. A.J. Brown's a great player. But when you're a great player who not only has been paid, but has been paid twice, if your team's winning, your job is to not cause a problem. And A.J. Brown was a first-round pick, got that money. The Eagles paid him a ton of money when they traded for him. And this offseason preemptively gave him another extension. So A.J. Brown is on his third big contract. And the fact that, and they're winning. And the fact that he has decided now is the time to, after a win, cause a problem, I think is really abhorrent behavior by your captain. Like, there's just, I hate it. And I understand we let wide receivers get away with a lot more because the diva wide receiver thing. But this is bad, man. Like, you're 11-2. Saquon, like, the whole narrative from within the locker room is, man, you guys disrespected our defense. Look at them now. Saquon's going to break the rushing record. It should be nothing but good vibes. And A.J. Brown started a fire that then Brandon Graham, added kerosene to. So that's not good. And so I do think the Eagles can still make the Super Bowl. But I don't trust Sirianni to fix this. And I don't know why A.J. Brown started this problem. All right, next.
All right, amidst another Giants loss, a plane flew over MetLife Stadium with a banner reading, "Mr. Mara, enough. Please fix this dumpster fire." After the game, Malik Neighbors was asked about it and said, "I ain't paid for the plane," which is exactly what you would say if you paid for the plane. Counselor, defend your client, the number one suspect, Malik Neighbors.
Well, listen, obviously, Malik Neighbors didn't pay for the plane.
He wasn't mad that it was there.
I don't even think he needs a lot of defense there. Nobody thinks he actually paid for the plane. I'm going to once again take off my public defender hat for a moment and talk about another diva wide receiver. Malik Neighbors, you're too young and have not accomplished enough to be this much of a pain in the ass. And there has been multiple times this season where you have made it clear it ain't my fault. Buddy, we all know it's not your fault. We all know you're one of the best players on the team. But I do not think that Malik Neighbors has earned the sweat equity to do the post-game malcontent stuff the way he's already doing it. And maybe it's because I turned 40. Maybe I'm becoming more curmudgeonly. But the amount of young receivers that are just an instant pain in the ass, I think is not ideal. And does not necessarily foster winning. And again, I imagine Malik is incredibly frustrated, and he is an awesome player. He's been the best of the rookie wide receivers. He's been better than Marvin Harrison. He's been better than Rome. And that's despite being in the worst quarterbacking situation. Try to make it through your first season before you're like, I don't know why I didn't get the ball till we were down 30-0. I ain't paid for the plane. Like, try, if you're going to be the best player on a team, try to exhibit some leadership qualities. I don't think that's unfair. I think that's part of being a professional. Damonza, I hear I got a new client.
Well, your client, Malik Neighbors, is going to jail now. You just got another client. Defend diva wide receivers as a whole.
Well, this is actually, despite everything I just said, this is actually very easy. Which is, wide receiver is the only position in all of sports where even if you play perfectly, you're a 100 out of 100 in every category. Your success is thoroughly dependent on other people. There is, and I said all of sports, but I can just keep it to football. There is not another position on the football field that doesn't have the opportunity to just singularly dominate individually, independent of everyone else. Every spot on defense can do it. Your safety can come down, make a big hit. Corners can take away a side of the field or make a pick. Pass rushers, run stoppers can beat their block and go do it. Offensive linemen, you can pancake a guy again and again and again. Obviously, running back can go make somebody miss. Quarterback has the whole game in his hands. Wide receiver can do exactly what you've asked. Run his route exactly 7 yards, lose the corner, be wide open, and never get the ball or get missed. And when you play that position for your whole life growing up, when that happens, then what that can engender or create is some selfishness and some frustration that then once you get to the top of the mountain, the NFL can really blossom. So it is not a coincidence that the position that has the most divas is the dependent position. And so that is, it is nurture more than nature in this regard. These receivers are not born divas. They are developed into them by football and what it does to them. And so it's society's fault, Your Honor. Now I'll take off my public defender hat. With all that said, that's what the money's for. Grow up, kids. That's what the money's for. All right, last one.
Very well said. Arguably the greatest coach of all time, or so we thought. Bill Belichick was unable to find work this past year. Now he's reportedly considering coaching historic basketball school UNC. Counselor, defend the legacy of your client, Bill Belichick.
Your Honor, I recuse myself from this case because I find it so outrageous and embarrassing that my client is publicly dating a woman 45 years younger than him. And I can't believe that the media, the mainstream media, feels like this is out of bounds to discuss. It's not, and it's weird. It's not out of bounds. They've gone Instagram public. He's out there on Halloween dressing up like a fisherman. She's dressing up like a mermaid. Listen, if someone who is a public figure gets caught by the media at dinner with someone, pictures through the, restaurant window, and they never do anything public about it, then I would say that's their private life. Leave them alone. When you decide as a public person to publicly be in a relationship with someone, I think, born in the 2000s, or if not in the 2000s,
Counselor,
born, in the, what? What'd you say?
You're getting out of line. You're going into his,
I'm not
his
getting out of
personal
line.
life. This is supposed to be the UNCR.
It's not personal life. It's not his
public life now.
I'm telling you right now.
You're the public defender.
If I ran an NFL team And I'm like, hey, I'm figuring out who is going to be the head coach of my team. And it's like, oh, there's Mike Vrabel, married, kids, everyone thinks in line. Oh, there's coordinator X, single, don't really know his situation. Oh, here's this person, divorced, don't really know his situation. Here's a man who's 72 years old, dating a college student, grad student. I'm going to say I'm worried he might be going through some things. That's in bounds. I'm sorry. That's not an unfair, and I think Belichick's greatest coach ever. That's not unfair. And him doing it publicly is weird. It's just weird.
I
don't think it's helping his coaching prospects. What?
Yeah, I do think it is a little bit of a weird time to, like if you were going for an NFL team, but to then also try to go back and coach at a college when you're currently doing that.
Damonza, this is weird because you're my son and I'm married to your mom. But so you have to put yourself in a different position. So don't even pick me. Let's not even do me.
Thanks. And
I don't want to do what any of my colleagues because they're married as well. I'll just do myself. I'm 40. If I was dating a 24-year-old, people would roll their eyes. If Belichick is almost to the year, who's almost the exact same age as Belichick? Papa, my dad. If my dad was dating someone your age, we'd be like, we'd have concerns.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, Belichick, I don't think it's helping his coaching career. I like his ability to land one of these jobs. And I do think it's odd. And I try to be very fair to people that private life is private. This is not private. This has been super public to the point to where we know how they met. I don't know how Andy Reid met his wife. I know Belichick and her were sitting next to each other on a plane and he helped her with her homework or something. Like, I know that. Like that and I know that they took Instagram pictures where he was a fisherman and she was a mermaid for Halloween. Yeah. I know that happened. And so I mean, that is what it is. And maybe people will get mad at me for this. Maybe this will get aggregated. I stand by all of it.
Nobody's talking
odd.
about it. Nobody is talking about it.
And why? It's so weird that people are afraid to talk about it. Like, he's 72. If his girlfriend was 42, it'd be noteworthy. That'd be noteworthy.
No, 42 is all right. 42 is different. Like the 24.
It would be noteworthy. If you're dating someone 30 years younger than you, it's noteworthy. It's not bad, but it's noteworthy. It's certainly. If I were to be like, hey, let's play a game. If none of this had happened, let's play a game. Guess the age within a 5-year band of such and such 72-year-old's girlfriend. How many guesses does it take before you get to early 40s? Much less mid-20s. Like, yeah. I think 90 is more likely than 25. So I think, like, it's just weird. Quick break, right back. What's right? Welcome back in. What's Right with Nick Wright. All right, Damonza, let's get some listener questions. Some are from last week because we didn't have time for them on Thursday because Danny Parkins wouldn't stop talking. By the way, Danny Parkins 1-2 on his picks this week. I'm officially just one pick behind him. We had another winning week on this show, 3-2 on this show, 2-1 on TV. The teaser gotcha. Sorry, pal.
We'll
but
recap
that's all right.
that on
We'll
Thursday.
talk about it on
I've got some
Thursday.
thoughts on that.
Yep. All right, go ahead.
So Sibley, hey Nick, which first round matchup would be better than a bye this year?
There isn't one. There is no super soft first round matchup. Theoretically, if the Colts and Anthony Richardson get in, that would be, that's a pretty decent 7 spot. But the Broncos with Sean Payton, even with rookie Bo Nix, is not a super soft spot. And obviously the Chargers are not, and the Ravens are not, or the Steelers if they fall. So I don't think there is one. Whoever is the two, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I guess come that time, they're going to have a lot of rest if that dream scenario happens. But with the way that they're playing teams, what situation is better than a bye?
What do you mean?
So, basically, with how close that they're playing teams, in the playoffs, I just think that, given that they just beat the Panthers by, yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. I got you. No, there is.
They've shown they're going to play everybody tight, but with that rest situation, comes to be different.
Listen, and I wasn't even looking at that as a Chiefs question because I don't think the Chiefs are going to be the 2 seed. They're 2 games clear of Buffalo. And so I'm just saying whoever is the 2 seed, that round 1 in both conferences is not going to be easy. In the NFC, it'll either be probably Washington, theoretically Green Bay, or the Rams. None of those are easy spots. Or maybe the Seahawks. Those aren't easy games. All right, next.
Marcus, Nick, you do think limiting sacks should be brought up more in the quarterback convos? And do you agree if sacks are more of a QB stat than an O-line stat? Who gets more credit in Buffalo, Allen or the line?
Well, listen, I think the Bills' offensive line has been one of the more underrated units in the league this year, but Allen does get credit. I do think limiting sacks should be brought up in the quarterbacking conversation, and I do think it's a skill. I also think that situationally, you've got it. This is one of those things you really got to watch the games. How many of the sacks are instant pressure, nothing you could do, and how many of it is the quarterback running himself into sacks. So I'll use the most sacked quarterback in the league this year, Caleb. Caleb's offensive line's been brutal, and a lot of those sacks are not on him. But feels like about a third of them are, maybe a quarter of them, that he has held onto the ball too long, that he has tried. And so, right. So I do think it's a rich tapestry, if you will. But yes, Allen not turning the ball over and not taking sacks. Sacks from a win percentage perspective are a third as damaging as a turnover, depending on the spot you take them. So, they're really bad to take, and so that is noteworthy. All right, next.
Oli, Nick, you mentioned you listen to sports podcasts to keep up with the news and analysis. Can you tell us your favorites?
Yeah, I think during the NFL season, NFL Daily with Greg Rosenthal and that crew is, no pun intended, a daily listen for me. I love it. I think it is as good of a source of NFL Daily is what it's called. It's just called NFL Daily. Greg Rosenthal is the host. I think that's outstanding. I like and in fact, there's a long list that I could give, but if I give a long list and I don't include people, then it's I forgot or I snubbed them or whatever. So instead of that, I'm just going to give one. I think NFL Daily with Greg Rosenthal this time of the year is a must listen. All right, let's go to Lewis's question, Damonza.
Lewis, who is your favorite player in the NBA and NFL behind LeBron and any player on the Chiefs?
My favorite player in the NBA and NFL. No Chief and not LeBron. It's a really good question.
It's not Lamar?
No, that wouldn't be Lamar for me.
No, you hated Lamar.
I don't hate Lamar, but it wouldn't be Lamar. I like Joe Burrow a lot. And I have massive respect for Burrow. I love Luka, obviously. The answer is probably Luka. I'm trying to think if there's an obvious person that I'm forgetting. But
Baker.
The answer there's I do love Baker.
For NFL?
Baker's up there as well. All right, let's go to Grayson.
Grayson. If Bills lose this week and Ravens win out, why isn't Lamar MVP? He's better in every single stat than Allen and would have one more loss with a significantly harder schedule.
Well, and they whooped them, right? They beat them 35-10 would be the other piece of that. I think the answer is this award is kind of like the narratives can get away from you. And Lamar's MVP narrative ended. And right or wrong, I don't think he's going to recapture it. Like, I think they would have to win out, win the division, the Bills stumble. Like, a lot of things would have to happen. What I do think is the other piece that is fair is I do think people look at Lamar having Derrick Henry as far more significant than anything Josh Allen has. But Lamar should be in the conversation for regular season MVP. There's no question about it.
Don't forget he just had a bye. He's about to play New York coming up.
Right.
So there's a little bit of the lack of game. The lack of 100%, game, should I say.
Right. They had lost and he had a bye, and so they had lost, I think, 2 of their last 3, so that hurt him a lot, obviously. Right now, if I had a ballot, because I don't want it to just be a quarterback award, I think my ballot right now would be Saquon 1, Josh 2, TJ Watt 3, Lamar 4, and because it'd be super fun, Penei Sewell 5. Because I think he's the best player on the Lions and kind of encapsulates who they are, and they're having such a great year. That would be my ballot at the moment. All right, I got to go do Colin. Great job today, Damonza. I'll see you guys on the herd in about 90 minutes. See you on First Things First in 3.5 hours. What's right? Hey, thanks for watching. If you're still here, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell so you can be notified when we have new episodes. After you've done that, one more favor, go to your favorite audio platform of choice and subscribe there as well. Don't forget, we're live every Tuesday and Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern-ish. 10:35, 10:40, it sometimes changes, but that's why you hit the bell. You hit the bell so you're notified. You subscribe so we can get to 200,000 followers. We're right around 150,000. We'd love to get to 200,000, get Damonza another plaque. So like, subscribe, rate, send a rating too. Do all that cool stuff. Thanks, guys.